I am Tanya Eberhardt. Welcome to Be Bold Branding. We help business stars differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
Hi, folks. I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was a client before I became a partner in the company, and we're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. And we do Be Bold Branding to help you move into the spotlight, folks. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yep. And today, guys, we have a treat. Like, we've never discussed this topic on a Be Bold Branding before. And we've also never had a guest that had his brand this much together. This is really a treat for us. Okay. So I'm going to introduce to you Dave Foster. He is founder and CEO of the 1031 Investor, which, by the way, is his brand identifier, as we call it. That is who he is. He is the 1031 Investor. So Dave is a degreed accountant and serial real estate investor who is also a qualified intermediary and consultant for tax saving strategies such as the 1031 exchange and the Section 121 homestead exemption. Dave started fixing and flipping in the 90s and realized one major thing. 40% of his profits were going to, drum roll, the IRS. So Dave actually moved his way from Denver, Colorado to Tampa, Florida over a 10-year period using the Section 121 homestead exemption so that he and his family could move on to, another drum roll, a boat.
That's awesome.
What a horrible life you've lived. He raised
don't cry for me, right?
That's right. He raised 4 boys on this boat while investing in properties with the 1031 exchange. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. You can cry for my wife. She's the saint.
I might.
It's great to be here.
It's so great to have you. And I have to start out this by saying that is absolutely the truth. How we open this up is you're the first person we've had on here whose brand was like rock solid all the way across. We're very impressed. Mm-hmm. And it's actually the number one reason we're having you on this show today, because we love how you came at this. We call a tagline or a slogan that really it either says who you are or what you do or stand for. We call that a brand identifier because really it does just that. It identifies your brand. And so you are that 1031 investor, and looking through your YouTube channel, your website, your marketing materials, it's all consistent across the board, consistent, with graphic design, with the colors, with your brand messaging. We loved it, Dave. So hats off to you.
Well, thank you. Those are kind words coming from pros like you guys. What's really interesting is that the whole thing really has grown out over years as an outgrowth of what I was wanting to simply do with my life. It wasn't a big business idea that we necessarily had. Back in 1996, when this all started, we had the desire, we had our first son. And oh my gosh, that's like buying a TV. There's no reason to do anything else. You just lay them on the ground and watch them because they're just so awesome. And we wanted to jump off the corporate train right then. So it was, how do we do that? And that's when we kind of stumbled into real estate investing and said, this looks like a good ticket. Let's buy a property. Let's flip it. Let's sell it. Let's make some money. And then, yeah, you're right. The punchline of that one is that I had a silent partner I didn't know about, and his name was Uncle Sam. And once the taxes got done being paid, my silent partner did a lot better than I did. So trying to figure out how to create for myself the life that I wanted led me into using the 1031 exchanges, which, for those of your listeners that don't know what they are, it's really just an opportunity to sell investment real estate and buy investment real estate. But when you do the process right, you don't have to pay the tax on the profit. You get to use the tax on the profit for yourself going forward. So over the course of years, you build up hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be building bridges or whatever for the government, or it could be working for you. And so we saw that as an opportunity to give us the leverage to escape. And then we said, well, gosh, wouldn't this be a great thing to do for others? So what I am is I'm the 1031 investor that found it and now do it for others as well. And so the brand just kind of came easily after that.
Fantastic. That's really good. Really very authentic too. I love that, Dave. Love it. Hey, I want to jump right into a question for you. We've already sort of hinted at some of your boldness. You apparently have that, but this is Be Bold branding, and being bold is something we love. What's the boldest thing you've done to date, you think? Quantify as the boldest business move.
You know, I think that there is a reticence among a certain population, I'm one of them, where we don't necessarily think that what we've been able to do is worth sharing with others. Or we don't think that my story resonates. Well, I got lucky, right? Or, well, yeah, I can do this, but everybody can do this. And so we tend to downplay what we can do. And I was literally just listening to an old hymn the other day where the words from it are, two wonders I must confess, my worth and my unworthiness. And for so many people, we can get caught on the backside of that, where we're only thinking about our unworthiness. Yeah, we may have gotten lucky. Yeah, we may be doing a good thing. Yeah, we may have something to offer, but we're not worthy of the accolades. We're not worthy to be followed. And then there's the other side of those people, right? Who focus on my worth. Why, of course, I'm an influencer on Instagram. Why wouldn't everybody want to know how I squeeze the toothpaste tube?
Right.
So for me, the biggest, boldest thing I ever did was to get out from behind the doing it for myself and say to people, I can help you do the same thing because it's worth it and you're worth it and I'm good enough to teach you. That was really scary, huge scary.
No doubt. We know exactly.
Yeah, but I love that because that is the vulnerability behind that is what's so impressive. Mm-hmm. Especially men don't like to be very vulnerable. Women find it a little bit easier, right? But the vulnerability of it is really like it's super tough. And I see you giggling, so you know.
Well, all that's happened, think about the last 10 years. We've lost the whole metaphor of the man in the car with the map. Right? The woman who's asking directions. Where's that metaphor?
Right?
That is it.
That's so true. That's so true. So, you know, I love that. And I think that really relates so well to so many of our clients because that unworthiness vein tends to run through so many of us. Mm-hmm. You know, it really does. And that, you know, worth and unworthiness, they battle each other consistently. It's like the devil on the left and the angel on the right shoulder, right? But overcoming that it's harder. You're making it harder in your mind than it really is. And once you break that boundary, then it seems to become a lot easier.
Yeah, that's
okay,
exactly
so
right.
Got another question for you. What is one thing, if you could only do one thing to grow your business, aside from obviously taking really good care of your existing clients, what would that one thing be?
Oh, that's a good question. So there is a concept that, I don't know if it's original in my mind or not, but if you guys remember Gary Larson and The Far Side,
yes,
one of my favorite cartoons is these two leopards sitting up and on a hill over a pond. And all the animals are coming down to the pond to drink. And it was just like basically a feast for them. And the caption line was watering holes of the Serengeti. And the leopards had these napkins around their necks, right? Like tiny napkins. I love that. As I have developed my business, I've seen that to be really effective because I'm only one person. You know, we've got a great staff of people that, you know, sit at the computer and take care of documents and do all kinds of stuff like that. But I'm one person publicly meeting the investor because that's important to me to be their guide and to walk with them through it. So to maximize my time, I've had to try to develop a philosophy of finding the watering holes of the Serengeti, places where real estate investors congregate. Now, in the early 2000s, those of you who remember that first run up, the realtors were very much in charge of the process. Every realtor would have 9 or 10 investors that they were working with. So rather than try to find the 9 or 10 investors, I needed to go find the one realtor and teach them. And what that becomes is such a great opportunity, not only for me to expand my reach geometrically, but for me to help a realtor develop their own branding because they become an expert in the field. Because really, isn't that what we become experts by? We become experts by learning other people's phone numbers.
Sure.
Right? I'm an expert in plumbing because I know the best plumber to call. And that's fine by me.
Yes.
I'm perfectly happy with that. So by working with realtors to teach them how to incorporate tax deferred exchanges into their branding, into their everyday language, and into their marketing, I was able to reach hundreds and thousands more realtors than I could. Title companies are another one of those watering holes of the Serengeti because every real estate transaction goes through a title company.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is that in this market, we're starting to see, you guys know this as well, the internet's changed the game.
Right.
YouTube has changed the game. And now you literally have to go find the individual investors. But there's still places where they congregate, such as these large forums that are out there, podcasts that are out there. And by that same token, then, in addition to finding the watering holes, I think one of the things we need to do is create the watering holes. And that's what we tried to do with the 1031 investor, was to create a watering hole where investors could come and congregate, learn about things on their own through the YouTube channel, use the calculators. Because when real estate investors really want to work on these things, it's like at 1 o'clock in the morning while they're waiting for the last cup of coffee to quit working on them.
Right.
So the ability for them to go to a site and start punching in numbers satisfies that Excel, addiction that we've all got. And so we have tried to create, as the 1031 investor, a watering hole for investors to come to.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything now looking back? So I consider you bold, very bold, and I think you made bold moves both personally and professionally. And like Tony was saying, we love your imaging, your look, your branding that you've done, with all of that. But as you look back now where you are, is there anything that you would have been more bold about, or bolder sooner, or anything like that in your past? Something you still want to be
Let's
bold
take
about?
let's take this back to high school. Honestly, and this carries through all our lives, I think. If I had the opportunity to go back again, I would dance wilder, I would dress bolder, and I would quit worrying about what anybody else said.
Yes, sir.
Do what you feel called to do and do it now. As a little personal aside, we got to spend, as you guys shared, 10 years on a sailboat. And we got to do that while we were young enough that we could raise our boys on it. Right at the end of that 10 years, an incident happened to me medically that we were no longer able to be on the sailboat. And if we would not have been bold, taken that leap, I'd be sitting here today with you having the regrets of not ever being on that boat. So that's what I would do, is quit listening to the voices of others. Oh my gosh, our relatives, our families, our friends, everybody were so concerned that we were going to drown, get captured by the Pirates of the Caribbean, or do something else stupid. And I never quit hearing the question, do you still live on a boat? To which, of course, my answer became, well, yeah, do you still live in a house?
That's a great answer.
Do it now.
That's
do
a
it
great answer.
now.
It reminds me of that one of the greatest country music songs of all time by Garth Brooks, If Tomorrow Never Comes.
Yes.
Absolutely, because you got to live as though tomorrow may never come, right?
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
Eventually
and that's
it
what
won't.
you did. And that, right, that's true. Eventually it won't. But, eventually tomorrow just may look different. And it may not look as favorable as it does today to do what you want to do, what you deserve to do.
You got to seize the moment.
You sure do.
And I like what you said, Dave, about not listening, because people, like, we talk about this all the time with our clients that have any kind of intimidation factor of coming into the program, or any of my realtors that I work with that are like, hey, can I be successful in this? They, you know, some of my bad advice have come from the people that love me the dearest, and they did not mean it as bad advice. They meant it as very positive advice. Like somebody would tell you, oh, aren't you afraid of, you know, one of your boys drowning or something like that, because people want to run to the worst fears. And you're like, no, the greater fear is that I don't get to raise my boys on the boat. Like, that's the greater fear. Like, you know, I'm going to teach them to swim. I'm going to do the safety measures. They're going to have their life vests on. Like, I've got that covered. I'm more afraid of the fact I won't be able to raise them on the boat. That's fantastic.
So true. There's so many studies out there that are coming out now where people are interviewing older people. Mark Twain said it 100 years ago or 150 years ago. You know, the things that nag at you when you're older are not the things you did. It's the things you didn't do.
So true.
I would agree with that 100%.
So true. You know, and that leads me to, you know, I actually, before I go into this next question, how did that conversation go? Like when you came to your wife and you said, hey, honey, I want to raise our boys on a boat for the next 10 years. Tell us about how that came about and how that went, and actually just give us a little synopsis of how that 10-year time frame went.
That is, well, we were both in fairly high profile careers at that time. And we would come home at night just exhausted and go, there's got to be a better way. And I was a college volleyball coach at the time. And my assistant coach and I would both just start thumbing through magazines. And we went, boats. Wouldn't that be awesome? We could do a boat. Now, I grew up a Kansas farm boy. Where the heck is a sailboat in that anywhere?
Maybe that's the whole thing, because it wasn't attainable in Kansas, right?
I guess. So I came home and said, Vicki, it's a boat. We can do a boat. She goes, okay. You got to give me so I'm not scared of the mast. And that was it.
So Vicki's bold too.
Oh my gosh, she is the bold one. Yeah, so gutsy girl that she is, she said, fine, let's do it. Let's set out the goal. Let's lay the end time. Let's work it back. And we ended up with a 10-year goal. And the first couple years, we were still in Denver, which, I mean, again, go figure, where's the ocean in Denver?
Right.
So we don't know what we were thinking about, but we would take trips a couple times a year just to go learn to sail, to make sure that it was going to be the right thing. So we dipped our feet in the water before we plunged, but not for too long, because the entire time we were preparing ourselves. And that's when we were doing the 1031 exchanges, because we needed to position our portfolio, first of all, so that it was generating income that we needed. Secondly, so that it would be where we needed it to be in Florida. So we went from Colorado to Connecticut to Florida, doing 1031 exchanges. And then, in a little known trick, we would take the investment properties that had deferred tax on them, and we would convert them into our primary residences. Now, when you do that, that now falls under Section 121, which you talked about. And when you sell your primary residence after the right time, the profits become tax-free. So we took investment properties, let tenants pay for the bills, let tenants pay the mortgage down, let appreciation do its thing. We 1031 exchanged into a market where we needed to move, where the tax was still deferred, and then we moved into them later, turned them into our primary residence, sold it, took the tax-free money, and that's what actually bought the boat for us.
Love it.
Genius.
Love it. And you know, there's more to it than just the genius of that. Like, I love the fact that you laid a plan out. While you were working the plan, you were going and doing some training, like you said, sticking your toes in the water, but you were still moving forward. Like, there wasn't any, like, you know, because we can overthink and not take those steps. And you guys were working those steps while you were working the plan and bringing it all together at one time. And that's just so important. you know, because you can leave some of those ingredients out and not end up getting where you're supposed to go. And so keeping your eye on the prize is very big.
Right. Well, it reminds me of something someone once said to me when we were anticipating a move to Guatemala to do some work with Compassion International, but we weren't sure how we were going to do it, the logistics, nothing was where it needed to be. But we were so sure that we were supposed to do that. And a good friend of mine said, well, Dave, if you were sure that something was going to happen, what would you do today to make sure you were ready?
Mm-hmm.
And that's those little things
Great
like,
question.
let's get a passport. Let's start to get some furniture in storage. Let's do yada, 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 all these things that are tiny little steps. But when you put them together, that's the path that takes you to the big goal.
That's great. Yeah. So did you end up, well, I got to ask this now. Did you end up in Guatemala doing some work?
We did. We ended up in Guatemala for 2 months, traveling all over the mountains, doing children's first aid and CPR training at Compassion International Centers.
Oh,
And our boys, because we could not find any of the CPR dummies,
right.
our boys were the CPR dummies.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
What an experience.
That is fantastic. I have a tie to Guatemala that myself and a Compassion International programs. I partnered with a church in 2003, Cristo es el Camino in Zone 7 of Guatemala City, and helped them go from 200 kids. And then my daughters later on were very instrumental in buying the building next door, raising the money for the building next door. And I think that project now is at 800 kids. Like it's fantastic.
That's so awesome. You know what? Let's give them a shout out. Compassion International is one of the most awesome organizations, aren't they? For taking care of kids. When we did our first conference there, we were at a site in Panajachel, and we asked all of the staff there that we were training where they had come from, what their backgrounds were. 90% of them had been children in the program, and they graduated and came back because they saw how much good it was doing for the kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the kinds of experiences that are just awesome.
That's awesome.
Very, very heartwarming. You know, so as we go through this conversation, I mean, there's just so many things that, you know, other people will be listening to this and think, oh gosh, those are all very bold things. I don't know if I could ever do that, right? I don't know if I could ever do that. So I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate professionals, you know, that are going to be listening to this. What advice would you give them to help them overcome any intimidation of, number one, putting themselves out there in the way that you have? You are the 1031 investor, right? So a lot of people are hesitant to do that. And then a lot of people are just hesitant to make any bold moves like the ones you've made. What advice would you give them?
Very well. That would be number one. I would agree with that.
Shout out to Vicky now, right?
You know, it's kind of in jest, but it's actually kind of true, because it really speaks to the whole thing of, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I cannot think of anything more important than having a team around you. And your team starts with your family. My children, the inspiration and encouragement, my wife and her incredible wisdom and patience, forbearance, beauty, charm, wealth. I'm angling for a good dinner tonight. But
surf and turf, I think.
But the idea of finding the team, and as far as branding goes, that's that exact same thing. Nobody is going to be an expert on anything. You may be able to do some stuff in your life by yourself, but you will never be able to do as much as if you involve a team to pick up where you're slack. I was listened to a podcast years ago, and a successful entrepreneur was on it. And he said, I want to tell you something, gang. Only do what is your passion in your business. Don't do anything else, because two things will happen. And he was really graphic about it. He said, first of all, you're going to burn out. If your passion is marketing and you're trying to do finance, you're going to burn out. but far more than that, you're going to suck. Because if you're a marketer, you are not going to be a good finance manager.
Mhm.
If you're an accountant, you're not going to be able to create the branding that you need to take advantage. So only do what you love and then get your team together. You know, a successful real estate investor has what behind them, Michael? You know, you've got appraisers, you've got inspectors, you've got realtors, you've got, you know, lenders, you've got a 1031 qualified intermediary that's helping you on the back end. We're all critical parts of that investor's team. And the investor who's managing that team is going to go so much farther than they will if they just try to go by themselves.
Mhm. I agree with that 100%. 100%. Your heart's got to be in it. You know,
Yeah.
you have to have, and if your heart's in it, you're going to be good
So
at it
true.
because you're going to put in the effort and the time. And if it's not, then find, like you said, find those people that are going to help shore that up. And some things are necessary, like what you're talking about. Find you a qualified intermediary like yourself for the because it's important. Obviously, it's necessary too. It's also one of the prerequisites, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm one of those lucky creatures where you have to hire me because the IRS says so.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that you like to put it out there and help other people to learn how to do that and you're also the living example of somebody who has done that. You didn't just learn it in a school. You didn't just become certified in accounting. You didn't just know the rules. You've actually lived the steps, and there's nobody better to learn from.
Right. And I think that's a great point, Michael. I think that one of the true high points in doing all this was that I can look at what we did and say, wow, that benefited me. But then taking that a step further and saying, well, wait a minute, can't I take that benefit and show others how to benefit as well? Can't I take this knowledge and help realtors become better realtors? Because I'm walking with them, teaching them how to do it. So instead of looking at I think that's kind of the difference between a guru and a guide, is that a guru just wants to make money. So how can I make money off of what I know? Whereas a guide or a mentor is someone who's developing that relationship, who says, I want to help you get the same benefits that I have had, but I want to do it because I have a relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And we've tried to create a brand that is more mentor and less guru oriented.
Yep.
Yeah, it's what we call authentic. There's two things
Great
that I
word for it.
believe BrandFace stands for that you have captured here, Dave. Number one is authenticity, and number two is confidence. And confidence just comes from knowing that you're doing what you're passionate about, that you're genuinely helping other people, and knowing this is who you are. This does work. I'm going to help you get there, right? And help people be confident about that. And as you said, 1031 exchange is yet another way to help real estate professionals differentiate themselves.
Absolutely.
If they're working with investors.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one more way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As a matter of fact, one of the ways that we've made our mark throughout the last 20 years, the watering holes of the Serengeti was through teaching realtors and continuing education. And that is something that is available to every realtor and really every professional right now. The ability to reach an audience through modern media techniques. For me, it was in-face classes. But what we would teach them is how to use the 1031s for themselves and for their investors. There's a crazy statistic out there, and you guys have to correct me if I get the terminology wrong, but one of the things that we try to teach realtors is to develop, is it their own garden? Is it something their own farm?
A farming area.
Farming area, right. And you try to find a place a place where there's a lot of good candidates. Well, with 1031 exchanges, it's a virtual farm because of all of the transactions that happen according to NAR. About 10% of the transactions that would qualify for 1031 exchanges actually use 1031 exchanges. Now, a couple of years ago, that meant that out of 2 million potential transactions, only about 200,000 1031 exchanges happen. So What would a realtor think if they could develop a farm where there was a 90% open market
Right.
and potentially 2 million transactions? I'd be running. So that's how we tried to steer realtors to help them create their own farm.
No, I love
Yeah.
that. And that's an excellent point of differentiation because it is, like you said, it's necessary. I've been an investor since I was 21. I've never used a 1031. I've been familiar with it. I've known it. Now, mostly I'm a hoarder. I told you that before the show. So
That's
I
right.
don't get rid of anything. So, but that is. But I would be remiss to not use the tool myself,
Right.
because these are in the codes. The IRS gave us this gift, and nobody really utilizes it. So it's a great point of differentiation, and like you said, a huge emerging market for any.
Well, probably the biggest argument I get against it is I'm going to have to pay the taxes sometime anyways. But you can talk to dozens of my clients who have done these all their lives and have never paid a penny in tax. And when they die, the property goes to their heirs at what is called a step up in basis, which means the heirs get the property as if they paid market value for it on the day they die. So it is possible to do what we in the industry call the big D's: defer, 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 and then die, and the tax goes away. That's pretty powerful,
Yes.
especially for a realtor, when you consider that each time they defer, they're going to take that tax and they have to buy more real estate. So as a realtor, you're helping your clients increase their net worth, and at the very same time, you're increasing your own transactions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a win-win-win
For everybody.
Fantastic.
Except the die part, but that's kind of, we're all going there anyways. So.
Well, we can't escape it, right?
Right.
At least we haven't figured out how.
Michael and I are big on this. We think that we meet people for a reason, you know, and this has been such an authentic and beautiful interview. I feel like we have definitely met you for a reason. You are such an awesome guy, and we so appreciate you being on today.
Absolutely.
Your questions and thoughtfulness was just so appreciated. I had a lot of fun.
What's the best way to utilize your services, and how are you set up for that? The floor is yours.
I couldn't say it any better than go to the 1031investor.com.
Okay.
And you'll find me there.
Excellent. And we'll put that link in also, so people can get to you very easy. And I'll encourage everybody to look into this, because it is a tool in your toolbox that makes a big difference. And like Dave said, the statistics show not a lot of people are taking advantage of that. So it's.
By the way, we do want to give you guys a gift as well, if we could, and that is that if you go to submit your order online at the 1031investor.com, and if you do /podcast to input your order, we're giving clients $50 off their first exchange.
Nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. You got it. You got it. Okay. Well, thank you again, Dave. We so very much appreciate it. And we hope you'll come back again.
Let's do it. Round 2.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Let's do it. All right. Okay. So guys, if you have any comments, leave them down below and we'll all come back. Dave, if you'll help us check those too, come back and let's answer anybody's questions. And we'll keep you guys moving forward and help you understand, number one, about 1031 exchanges. And number two, if you're a real estate professional, how to potentially differentiate yourself as a real estate professional by using 1031 exchanges. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview, because we sure have.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, I'm going to be looking into it too. So I think it's something that every realtor needs to be doing. Any investor too, for the entrepreneurs that watch the show. The business makes the money that buys the real estate that makes you wealthy. And Dave can help you hold on to that. So it's a great business model. And here, folks, we know that it's about prosperity. That's what we teach about, prosperity. But we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the 360 of an abundant life. And at BrandFace, we know that prosperity favors the bold. So be bold, folks, especially with your brand, and stay bold in these times. And thank you, Miss Tanya, and thank you, Mr. Dave.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Be Bold.